I want to talk a little bit about the blockchain potential, kind of like the blue sky, right? Where is all this going? And these are the opportunities, the various business models that we're starting to see emerge, where value is created and captured. So if we rethink existing models, if we go back to Szabo, Nick Szabo's sort of wet versus dry, let's get these subjective human interactions into some dry code, just make it really clear and simple the kind of agreements that we can enter into, then we can rethink all sorts of models, right, and put them into smart contracts. We can rethink how we do peer-to-peer exchange in economies, little small microeconomies. We can put them into trustless, provable systems. So that's basically kind of a weird blockchain fancy way of saying, I can look at a contract and actually understand what it's going to do, and if it's legally binding, I can just tap it on my phone, and me and Igor, we're now in sync, we're in agreement. And maybe it's not just me and Igor buying something, it's a complicated sort of structure of a smart contract where I've hired Igor to do some work, there's 3 milestones there, he gets the payment at every milestone as long as I say that the work is good. If I say the work is not that good and Igor wants to dispute it, he says, hey, I did what you told me to do. We can take it to a tribunal. They can kind of arbitrate on that, but we have to pay a deposit to kind of get that settled. So we have to incentivize random users in the network to settle the dispute. But this can all happen with software, right? So we can speed it up and sort of make things a little bit more efficient and a little bit more clear as to how these transactions happen. So disintermediation of a lot of stuff, counterparty risk. So the reason why Visa takes 3% is because they spend most of their money chasing around risk, chasing around people doing bad things, right? And they basically, for the 3% that a merchant pays to Visa, the merchant can just go, I don't have to worry about it. I can take any visas, right? Accounting, commerce, we can sort of we can get rid of the intermediaries. I alluded to maybe we can potentially get rid of the need for external auditing if everything's kind of done on the blockchain in an open and transparent way. It doesn't have to be always 100% open to the public. It can be like open and trustless, but only visible to a few people. So there are sort of different models that people are coming up with for this. So it's not always just kind of out there. So I alluded to the dry software replacing sort of wet processes. So the monetization of open source software is really interesting. So if I said to you, hey, you can buy 100 packets of TCP/IP, would you do it? If I said that to you 20 years ago, you'd probably be like, yeah, this thing's gonna be huge, right? But unfortunately, just the way the protocols were designed and the way the software was designed at the time, there was no way to basically say, I own 100 units or 100 packets of TCP/IP. But that's kind of where we're going with some of these protocols that are getting created. There's the way to kind of own a piece of the protocol in a tokenized form, and then those tokens are kind of what gets used as sort of the gas or the oil or whatever you want to think of it, however you want to think of it, to power the protocol. So you can actually own some open source and some network protocols. Microtransactions, loans, insurance, and economies. Obviously, the transaction cost of doing things on the blockchain. For me to send some Ether to Igor right now, it costs about half a cent, so like 0.006 USD. And basically, it'll get to Igor's wallet in about 30 to 40 seconds. So, and it doesn't matter if Igor is sitting right here or if Igor is in Singapore, it's still just the same, right? It's a worldwide, global network. Decentralized organizations, a lot of people talk about that. So they're leveraging the fact that these are free and open markets with near zero fees, right? And we can create a lot of organization around ideas. We can set bounties for work. So we can say, hey, I want somebody to do a logo. Here's $100 worth of Ether. If you do the logo and we say the logo's good, we're going to release it. It's right into your account. So faster, cleaner ways of sort of doing something like a Fiverr or like, I can't even remember the name of the other ones, doing a fiber without the fiber, right? So without the actual company. Maybe let's create an Uber without the douchebaggery of Uber. Trying to get you guys. Let's create an Airbnb without the Airbnb, without the company, right? Let's create a peer-to-peer system, right? So global distribution of new currencies, communities, tribes, and ideas. So this is a global thing. Like blockchain is starting to see a lot of you're starting to see a lot of third world areas kind of leapfrog because they don't have the traditional banking infrastructure that we have in the first world. When I was mentioning those examples of sending money to somebody, of course I can send money to Igor. Like I can send him Canadian dollars. I just go to my bank account and I email transfer, right? It's simple. We've all done it. I can pay for stuff with my credit card. I got a nice limit. I don't take my credit card. I can buy a television. I can buy anything, right? Like a lot of stuff we can do in the first world. But in the third world, they can't do that. They don't have access to global markets. They don't have access to bank accounts. And like what we saw in Africa with mobile payments and M-Pesa, they are going to use this technology to jump over us. Because all they need is like a $300 computer. They write some code or they download a piece of software, open source software. They join the network. They start earning Ethereum. They start freelancing on the web. They start getting paid in Bitcoin. I mean, it just sort of kind of tumbles forward like that. So that's what's getting really interesting is that this is an enabling technology, and it's largely a global technology. So we're going to see, in my opinion, and this sort of goes into like severe kind of conjecture of where it's going, but we're going to see like a melting away of bureaucracy. So we're going to see governments getting more efficient. They're going to wake up and realize that they need to find new ways of generating tax revenue if people start disappearing into these global currencies. I myself have put some money of like some of my sort of disposable income into buying Ethereum and investing in like blockchain projects and where is that going? Am I going to actually take it out and bring it back into Canadian dollars? I don't know, but my money is just going into these markets. They're going into global currencies. So governments are going to have to get leaner, a little bit more efficient about where they provide services and how they generate tax revenue. Rent seekers, so definitely like these, guys that interject themselves in the middle of transactions and kind of arbitrage markets, you're going to see them just go poof, right? So just because they can time a stock purchase or something like that, and they say, yeah, we're awesome because we're, 1 foot closer to the New York Stock Exchange, that's all going to go away, in my opinion. And we're going to see the inefficiency of existing models get unearthed. So people are going to start pulling at the threads and go, hey, what's really going on with, the Federal Reserve or whatever. That's getting into tinfoil hat territory. But